Change is something that we can depend on without failure. I mean, we try to set our lives up. We believe we have control in our lives of most things. However, our control is like a facade. It's really limited. But one thing I can guarantee you, if you take the control that you have internally and use it for what's happening to you in your external environment, it'll come out better. And that's what I mean. The challenge here is our willingness. Our willingness. We have to be willing to understand, accept, and integrate change in our lives, in the current situation. Because change is going to occur if you participate with it happening or not. So it's up to you. That's why it's about willingness. We have free will to do things in our lives to make a difference in our lives. Most of us are externally driven, and we're looking for something else to happen and we call it control. However, when it comes to change, we respond to change in a couple of ways. Okay, people tend to respond to change either positively, and that's what I'm saying, embracing it, saying, okay, here we have this COVID-19. I don't like it. I don't like what it's doing to me and my environment, but let me see, how can I continue to function? What can I do in the midst of this to still normalize my life? And that's what happens with any change. With any change, if you embrace it, positive coping, then you'll have a smoother transition. However, for others, just the very idea that you got to change, just the very idea that you got to make an adjustment on anything in your life causes a lot of stress. Just the thought of it causes stress. However, I'm here to tell you, if you resist the change that's going to happen, it's going to happen with your participation or not. If you resist, you're going to find yourself feeling even more anxious than you would be just at the thought of having to change. If you resist it, it's going to feel like, I don't know how you felt when this started, but for me, it just turned everything upside down. I had just opened the office. I just did a lot of things. So my natural knee-jerk reaction was like, oh, crap, what am I going to do now? So what I did, I embraced it. I decided to embrace it, positively cope, because anything else would have just made everything even more and more uncertain. I seen someone raising their hand. I'm going to ask that we hold our questions to the end. I promise I will leave enough time that all these concepts that I'm giving you, we will have time to talk about it and how it may or may not work for you, or how to enhance some of the concepts. Okay? And so here we're talking about negative coping. Negative coping is our conscious attempt at ignoring whatever is going on. Somehow we figure if we ignore a thing, it'll just go away. And then when it doesn't go away, you just start to pile on more and more and more negative interactions. You just start, some folks start smoking cigarettes. Have you ever seen somebody get really anxious and, oh, I got to go smoke? Or you start eating, or even things that we consider good things, like praying. And I don't want to sound, negative about something that's really positive, but that's how you get your fanatics. You get these religious fanatics. This stuff is coming from somewhere deep, feeling out of control. So you reach for something in your life that you can control. And so what I say, Reach for the things that you can control that may give you a positive result. Otherwise, anything else you do is going to be temporary, and it may have risky or negative consequences, what you're doing to avoid it. You afraid to go outside. Let's use this covert again. You're afraid to go outside, and so you stay inside. You don't go out at all for anything, and then you don't make any other changes. And when this thing is over, the world is not going back the way it was. And you say, okay, what did I do? What did I do in this whole 2, 3 months, 6 months, year, whatever, to prepare myself to move forward? So that again, it elicits more depression, more anxiety, more anger. Folks are lashing out with each other. And that's negative coping. That is negative coping. On the other hand, positive coping is a method of engaging and anticipating what might be necessary to change, engaging and participating and thinking like, okay, what can I do different? Again, I'm using myself as an example. What I'm doing here today are things that I normally do face to face. So virtual workshops are new to me, as well as it is to a lot of folks. And so if I make a mistake, you all have to forgive me. But anyway, this here is my approach in engaging myself in whatever modifications that have to occur for my life to continue in my current situation. Now, this don't have to be permanent. It doesn't have to be permanent, but it's something that's positive, that's good, that's working, and it's working for the current situation. However, through thinking about it further and further out, now I'm learning a new skill. I'm learning something different. So this expands who I am in my profession, as well as personally. It reduces the stress because it helps me still do what it is that I want to do. Okay? So I want you all to take an opportunity and evaluate various resources that you have for anything, not just for COVID-19. This is about anything. These things I'm talking about today, you can take this with you the rest of your life, and you can apply it to various things the rest of your life. It's just an approach to change, to cope with it, to reduce the manifestation of negative outcomes. Again, you have two ways to coping with change. You either embrace it, which is positive, or you resist it, which is negative. Each one has an outcome. Change is going to happen if you participate or not. So why not embrace it? According to research, when we have to change, there are emotions that's involved in that. And that's why the resistance come up. And I'm sure some of you all can probably connect to that. Again, I'm using our current situation as a good example. We're grieving. If we were in the room, I'd say, raise your hand. How many of us are feeling like you're going through the grieving process? So the same emotions that connects to embracing change or resisting change has a physiological arousal, it's a cognitive process, it's behavior reactions, and all of this is generated from our perception. Remember, it's generated from our perception of what needs to be different. It's generated from how most things come from how you perceive it, okay? How is it going to work out? Change can be difficult because it affects our sense of our identity. I know there's folks out there that the work you were doing, your whole identity was wrapped up in your work. Some of us, our physical safekeeping is threatened, like right now, because of the changes that we have to make. The quality of our relationships, both personally and professionally, is affected by the necessary need to make change. So again, making change is just like going through the grief process. It affects your emotions, how you're feeling. It affects your cognitive process, how you're thinking. And then all of that will come out in your behavior. And this is based on your perception that you have to do something different. Now, one of the emotions that's involved when change has to occur, I'm giving you these steps because you need to know where you are in the process and what you're feeling and what does that mean, okay? Again, these are very similar to the grief process. So one of the first emotions that you feel is, oh my goodness, this can't happen. This can't be true. Oh my, what is this? Denial, surprise. No, this cannot happen to me. At this level, you're experiencing a discord between the way things was and the way they are going to have to be, the expectation. Remember, you haven't made the change yet. So you have a disconnect between the way things are currently or the way they were, and now you are expected to do something different. Again, it can be something minor or it can be something major. But what we do when we're in this stage, we start to minimize the need to make the change. We start devaluing, oh no, I don't need to do that. It's going to be okay. It's going to go away. We start ignoring the situation. And then if we continue to do that, we start to ignore the needs to manifest something that could make this a smoother process. Again, denial is not real. I don't believe this is happening. It won't affect me. It affect other folks. Just like with this COVID-19, I don't like to say coronavirus because coronavirus has been it's been there for a while. But this is COVID-19, which means coronavirus of 2019 because it happened, like in December or whatever in China. But we have to do something to make a difference with it, but then we find reasons why we don't have to do it personally. I've heard things that, this particular race of people don't get it, or this particular economic level of people are going to be okay because they have money. Oh, well, see, if it was this way, it would be like this. And so we find ways to, push it out, to continue with that disconnect. And that's your denial that you're in. Then once you move through denial, then you start going to this place of resistance. Resistance is natural. Resistance is natural for anything. All of us, me, everybody, resist against something that has to be different. Resistance is like the question, well, why? Why do I really, why do I have to make a dip? Why do I have to change, at this level in our reality, it becomes apparent that you understand that change must happen. But here you find yourself in a need to have time to make that adjustment. Now, what happens sometimes in this place of resistance, remember, the grief process is not linear, nor is this process of coping with change. It's not linear. So you don't go through like denial, then resistance, then this, then hey, I'm solid. No. Sometimes you go back and forth, okay? So here at Resistance is a place that you can push back. Survivor kicks in. Survivor enters. You enter that survival mode. And then you start pushing back against the whole concept that you need to make a change. And so then you can go right back into denial. Sometimes you don't move forward to the next step. You go right back into denial. So it's also about the timing that's connected to making the change. You can't just sit and sit and sit, even though you need time to make an adjustment, to understand why change must happen. But you got to collect the information that you have in an expeditiously kind of way, so you can start moving through the need to make change. Otherwise, again, you can find yourself back in the stage of denial. So resistance is normal, but you don't want to stay in the stage of resistance too long, because you can put yourself back into the place of denial. Now, here's a big one. And I don't know how many folks are dealing with this right now. But once you accept, you pass denial, you have accepted that this thing is occurring, you've processed your resistance, and just because you processed it, just because you're accepting the change must happen, doesn't mean you're going to like it. Acceptance does not mean enjoy. Acceptance does not mean that you have to love this thing that you accepted. Acceptance simply means I understand that this thing is occurring, and I understand that something else has to happen different. That's all it means, is that you understand things will not remain the same. So what happens when we feel like our choices are being taken away from us? When we feel like our choices are being taken away, we have a tendency to express strong emotions such as anger, get mad about it, but it's not going to change it. Resentment. Why me? What did I do to deserve this? Why these other people over here, they did such and such, and there's nothing happening to them. I've done everything right. So resentment starts telling you all kind of things. And then the big one, fear. Fear will paralyze you. Fear will paralyze you. Fear will put you back into your patterns of resistance. And resistance can be active or passive. When it's active, you are actively making a decision to push back against what is. When it's passive, you're sitting in it and not doing anything, and that's when you start having a lot of anxiety, when you have a lot of anger. You find yourself moving between negative feelings and positive feelings when it comes to making this adjustment. So when you have mood swings, it's because you go from feeling empowered that you can do something, about your concerns, or you start feeling powerless, that you can't do anything about it. And so with that happening, again, mood swings, resistance, disbelief, all of that are normal reactions against uncertainty. It's normal reactions and causes confusion. And again, if you don't embrace it, it will continue to give you anxiety and fear. Now, this is the big place where you're going to go, is to acceptance. Acceptance is not easy. Like I say, just because you accept something doesn't mean that you like it. Accepting something doesn't mean that you are enjoying that thing that you're accepting. Accepting means I'm figuring out how I'm going to go with the flow. Acceptance means that you're going to start examining what you have available to you. That's the first place, and I want to repeat that. Acceptance means that you start to look at the resources that you have available to you. During this stage, you are gradually accepting the situation, but again, now you really taking time to get used to it. At this point, you're also contemplating, do you need to reach out for help? That's where you're reviewing all your resources. What do I need? What would be the proper support? Who will help me embrace this change that has to happen? How is it going to affect my personal life? How is it affecting my professional life? And then you'll start to see the benefits of releasing yourself from the resistance. Once you start to accept that this change has to occur, you start to feel more powerful. You start to feel more control in your life over the situation. Because now that you're embracing it, change is not happening to you. Change is occurring in that particular situation. Again, it's not happening to you. When something happens to you, you're saying you have no control over anything, and you just lay down and let it happen. But if it's something that's occurring in the situation, again, it could be permanent, it could be temporary. But if you're practicing acceptance, you get to decide how you are going to participate in whatever these events may be. Releasing yourself from resistance, you get to use that energy in a more positive manner to make change occur. I don't have to even say this. Change can be sudden or it can be a gradual process. But change is essential that we do whatever we need to do to cope with it, because it's an essential part of life. The key is to make a commitment to move on. Make a commitment to examine what it is that you're going to do. Make a commitment to stand in your shoes so you can have power over that situation. That's when the real control and power comes, because it's your internal power. It's not what's in the external environment. What you have is everything you need is inside of you. That's where your true power comes from, to control the external environment, the external situations. Now, the ideas of dealing with change is acceptance of uncertainty, being proactive and evaluate. I've spoken on that. Think outside of the box, connect with your emotions. So I want to just kind of dive into these ideas for coping with change at this point and help you here. Acceptance of uncertainty. That's saying, I do not know when this thing is over. I do not know when it's going to end. I just know that I have to do something, because if I do nothing, something is going to happen anyway. And it's going to affect me. It's going to affect my situation. Now, this doesn't mean that you're giving up. It doesn't mean that you're surrendering unquestionably. It doesn't mean anything at that. Accepting uncertainty just provides you with a chance to view change as an opportunity to learn and to grow, rather than have change become a setback. Because if you don't accept it and you don't embrace it, remember, you got negative, which causes anxiety, depression, maladaptive behaviors. Okay? And then you can do positive coping, which what I'm speaking of here, accepting uncertainty. It can put you in a position of new possibilities, that things are not going to be how they were before. And because of this, I'm able to make some changes and adjustments in my life that I will be able to take beyond this. Accept uncertainty. Now you got to be proactive. Remember, I say you can either sit there and wait and be reactive. sit there and wait until you know it's gonna rain, so you just sitting there until the water comes down. Then you get the umbrella. So now you're reacting. Well, you know it's gonna rain. You have your umbrella with you. The rain cloud comes, so you have it ready to open. That's being proactive. Proactivity addresses the challenges that you may be forced with, that you may be forced to make the change on. Proactivity addresses the challenge by focusing on the problems at hand and developing a plan of action that can give you useful strategies. Remember, you got your umbrella there waiting. You don't have to go get the umbrella after it starts to rain. Okay? So once you recognize that change can occur and it will occur at any time, you start looking for clues that these changes may be permanent, they may be temporary, how they're going to affect a specific situation. Like for me and my work, I had to bring my work into the home. I had to figure out another way to do it. So this particular change affected me specifically on a professional level. It affects all of us on a personal level, and I'm sure most of us on a professional level, but I'm using myself as an example to say, prepare for both desirable and undesirable. And once you have an idea of what to expect, when the unexpected arrives, you're not surprised. You are prepared. That's what being proactive is. Being prepared for the unexpected. Some people say, well, how can you prepare for something unexpected? Well, if you really evaluate the situation, it lends you an idea of the possibilities of the things that may occur. It doesn't mean that you get to check off all the boxes, but at least it will provide you with some boxes to check. So be proactive. Evaluate your situation. And then you're prepared for both the desirable and undesirable. It'll take away some of the element of surprise. Think outside of the box. Think outside of the box. If we stay within the box, then we're stuck. And we're waiting on the government to send the stimulus checks. We're waiting on somebody to figure this thing out or that thing out. Think outside of the box. What is it that you currently have within your internal environment that's a resource that you can use to help you navigate what's going on out here? When you're in the midst of change, you can't just sit back and wait for things to happen. You have to explore the nature of the change, what your needs may be, how to make those adjustments. Think about your past experiences and the lessons that you gained from those situations. We know we may not have been in this thing before, but we've had some challenging things to happen in our lives that we may have had to think about how we're going to come out on the other end. And so I go back to say, when you start evaluating what you're going to do, embracing this change, not just for right now, but what can you take from this that will take you forever? For me, I'm learning this Zoom virtual workshops and all of that. What I'm learning, I've decided to take some of this and package it and make some online classes. I hadn't did that before. So I'm going to make some online classes, and I'm going to use these classes for like continuing education units for people. And I had never did that before. But that's something I'm taking out of this. Life changes with you or without you. And they're usually out of your control. So rather than manipulating the situations and wishing the situations was different and waiting on something else to happen, open yourself to the possibility of what this change can bring instead. So think outside of the box. Try not to just say, oh, well, it's going to be over on May 15th and I can be free. Well, no, there's still something else that's going to occur. So if you use this to the best right now, when they lift the stay at home, you're going to be a more empowered person. You're going to be more expanded. Think outside of the box. While you're doing that, you got to connect with your emotions. Remember those emotions that I was telling you, how what we think is what we believe, and it becomes our behavior, becomes what we do. So if you don't connect with your emotions when you're trying to make this adjustment, you'll build on the negative emotions. Like if you only get in touch with the fear, then everything you do is going to be fear-based. Excuse me. So being aware of your emotions is really, really important at any stage of life, in any situation, but is especially important through transitional periods. It could be, and when I say transitional periods are not necessary always something negative or something super challenging. Transitional periods can have to do with your age, accomplishments in life, things that you're gaining. Now you won the lottery and you're rich, or, you're older and you're retiring. Transitional periods occur all the time. Transitional periods are what? Change. And we're often scared of change because we are afraid of what we don't know. Imagine all the different possible outcomes and then decide what would be the best and what would be the worst. And I say this all the time. When anything happens, think of the absolute worst thing that can happen to you because of whatever this change or this challenge is. And then also think of the absolute best thing that could happen. And then when you do that, find yourself somewhere in the middle. That's how you create it. Find yourself somewhere in the middle. You don't surrender to each end, because if you surrender to the worst thing that can happen, the worst thing will happen. If you surrender to the best thing that can happen, the best thing is usually not the absolute best. It's either not going to measure completely up to what you imagine the best to be. Sometimes it's even better, but then you're pleasantly surprised. So if you don't set yourself up for disappointment, you find yourself in the middle. This helps you improve your ability to handle stress, and it goes a long way. It helps you, dealing with change. Change, that word change is what just kind of knocked everybody out the box. I don't care who you are, your age, your race, your social economic status, anything. When you have to deal with change, if you don't have healthy ways to deal with your feelings, you will not be able to handle change, positive change or negative change. There are people that their lives appear enhanced, they appear to be successful, but because they're not able to embrace change in a particular way, they can't even handle success. Success starts to become negative. Some of them, they begin to be worse than they would normally be if they were able to embrace success. So take some time and do some self-reflecting. Here I say meditate, do yoga, do journaling. But what's most important is you get some quiet time, you go for a walk, cook, clean, play the drums, anything where it'll help you get in touch with your emotions so you can understand where you are. And whatever emotion that you're experiencing, I invite you to use that emotion as the question, not the answer. Because, see, the answer is staying in that emotion and letting it just take over. If you use that emotion and let that emotion be the question, then it fills you up with the information about what's going on, what do I need to do. Say, for instance, the emotion is fear. You get to ask yourself, okay, why am I afraid right now? What am I being afraid of? What do I need to do? Okay, so I need to do this. Well, what do I need to do in order for me to do that particular thing? So the question, the emotion becomes the question that start to resolve whatever that situation is for you. But you have to find a way to get in touch with your emotion. Once you've gotten in touch with it, it's sort of like what I just said. You let the emotion be the question and not the answer. You're reframing your perspective. You're reframing your perspective. You stop disempowering yourself. You stop casting blame. You stop waiting for somebody else to wait to do something else to make your life more powerful, something more different. So when your perspective becomes more positive, asking yourself the questions of what you need rather than resisting and pushing yourself away from whatever is going on, you'll find lessons in that situation. Again, go back to fear. What am I afraid of? Okay, so it's this. What do I need to do for this to stop occurring? Okay, well then what is this? So then you find yourself, these are lessons. The situation has just taught you something. But if you resist it, you learn nothing, but you gain a lot. What you gain is a lot of anxiety, a lot of anger, a lot of disempowerment, more uncertainty, and you lose an opportunity for growth. Everything passes. Everything we experience actually comes from a greater place. Our thoughts, our actions, our feelings, everything comes from a greater place. And that's why we are triggered in various ways. All of us are triggered in different ways. But what happens when it comes to change, we're all triggered. And that's when you have to reframe your perspective. Your perspective, it comes from your perception of a thing. You know, they it might be an awkward period of transitioning, but it's how you perceive the end. Remember, you got what's the worst thing could happen, what's the best thing could happen, and where do you find yourself on that full spectrum? Reframe your perspective. Think of it different. Make fear or whatever the emotion is, make that your friend. Make that the question and not the answer. If you find yourself sitting in a negative thought, and I'm not being polyamorous about it, oh, well, make an affirmation and change it. No, that's absolutely not what I'm saying. Because I believe affirmations without information sets you up for a temporary situation. And what I mean by that, if I just, I'm reframing my perspective and I'm going to use an affirmation. But if I sit there and keep saying, oh, the cup is green. This cup is not going to turn green. I don't care how many times I keep affirming myself that the flower is going to flow or whatever. I need some information to support that position. And you get that information from examining and reframing your perspective on the outcome of whatever the situation may be. Now, I just want to kind of sway into This is like a little bonus here. I want to just sway into, since I'm giving some type of pointers, to help you deal with coping with change. I also wanted to add in at this point ways that you could possibly stay motivated while we're sheltering in place, or while we're dealing with this thing that's causing such a strong undercurrent. During our current climate, again, we are grieving the loss of our normal routine and experiencing a lack of direction. We're experiencing a lack of motivation, and all these ebbs and flows in our energy and our productivity is normal in such an unpredictable time. And that's what change is about. It's unpredictable, but you have to be prepared for it. So I'm just going to give you a couple of suggestions to help increase your motivation right now. And again, you can take this away from here, and not just for today. You can use this throughout different times in your life. Stick with a routine. Stick with a routine. And that doesn't mean that you're going to take something and you're going to make your schedule for the day and you can't veer from it right or left in any way. No. Just creating a routine provides you with some structure where you can stop resisting what has to happen, it gives you structure where you can have some time to get in touch with what you're feeling, your emotions. It gives you an opportunity to look at what is and what you may have to create differently. That's what getting a routine and sticking to it does. It gives you a frame to move from. Okay? Also, avoid electronics when you first wake up. I tell my parents, don't let your kids take the cell phones or computers or whatever to the bedroom. The bedroom is not a place for it, When you're trying to change any behavior, you start changing that behavior from when you wake up in the morning. Whatever it is that you're accustomed to doing in the morning, you can make an adjustment to that thing. Just a little bitty adjustment will make a difference in how you embrace the rest of your day. So if you avoid electronics when you first get up, you allow yourself to get settled into your spirit, settled into your energy, settled into your gratefulness that you did get up and it's another day. Okay, and I'm not pushing religious or spirituality out on anybody, but we gotta embrace some type of gratitude here. Get up and get dressed. Make yourself feel like you're going somewhere, doing something. That helps to normalize your day and what you may do. If you just lounge around in your pajamas and things, then your brain don't get to be as active and as focused as it would normally be. So get up and get dressed. You don't have to get dressed up, but get up and get dressed. Go take off those pajamas, take off those house shoes, or put clothes on and put the shoes back on or something, but make a transition from sleeping to moving. Get that energy flowing different. Dedicate a workspace. Find a space that when you're in that space, that's what you're doing, you're working. You tell your brain, I'm in this space, so I'm working. Again, this is about creating change. This is about thinking outside of the box. I tell people all the time, pajamas are pajamas because we say that you sleep in those clothes. But you could put on those same clothes and wear them outside. Thinking outside of the box. Dedicate a work area. It could be the counter in your kitchen, anything. If you have children, dedicate an area that's the classroom for them. It doesn't have to have desks and be fancy, but just somewhere that when you're in that space, that's what you're doing in that space and in that time. And if you all live with other people, take turns doing all these things. Don't leave the responsibility on any one person to fulfill all of the needs and all of the niches for everybody, because then there starts to be a negative response to the changes that have to be made. And I also say, when you're at home, is one thing that you're at home together, but are you at home together? See, being at home, you still can be at home with 100 people and still be at home alone. If you at home, be at home together. Get to know some different things about yourself that you can take past here. Get to know some different things about who you're in the house with. And I also encourage everyone to do the 5-to-1 rule. For every one thing you come up with when it comes to change and coping with change, every one thing that you come up with as a limitation, try to create 5 things from that thing is the reason why it will work for you. Now, this here ends my presentation on coping with change, but it doesn't end our communication here. If you've been in this with me, on the screen is the way that you can contact me. Also, I have a coupon on the screen that you can get a 20% discount on any of my services that's prepaid. I have, if you go on Eventbrite, I have lots and lots of upcoming events. I have a dance party that's coming on May 1st, Friday night dance party. I have a parenting workshop next week. I also have a career workshop, how to strategically position yourself, because with this COVID, we got to figure out how we're going to go back out into the world and how can you use what you have to do something different. So I'm inviting each of you to contact me personally if you want to figure out how to use any of these skills in your personal life. I'm on all social media at drtanyagilbert.com. If you just Google that, you'll find me everywhere. You can go to my website, is drtanyagilbert.com. So at this point, I'm going to open us up for questions. Now, I might need a moment here to figure out how to switch the screen. So I'm going to ask you guys to bear with me. Okay. I think I just did it. Okay. Now, what I have to do is figure out how to unmute everybody. I see the questions up here in my chat. I see questions. Again, remember, this here is a learning curve for me as well. And I want to thank each and every one of you all for being here, being patient, and attending this session with me. If you can't, I think everybody can hear me. I just got to figure out how to unmute everyone here.
Hey, Dr. Tanya, can you hear me?
I can hear you. How are you?
Hi, you did amazing, amazing, amazing. This is Stacy Prather from Philadelphia. You did absolutely amazing.
Thank you, Stacy. Can anybody else hear me? Can you check in and let me know if I need to do anything different? Stacy, where do I find the unmute button?
So if you go to the go down to the bottom where it says participants, and you can unmute all, or they could just unmute themselves. They could just put the mic on there.
Oh, I see it. Okay. Thank you. Everybody's unmuted now. Thank you, Stacy. Okay. And so, we can, I'm gonna look here now for the questions that came up. We can talk back and forth, but I just asked for one person to speak at a time. How you doing there? Beverly, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm glad you did this. This was wonderful.
Great, great, great. That is so fantastic. Hi, Allison. How are you? Can you hear me? Okay. All right. So anyone have any questions for me?
So let's check.
Okay. Any questions? I think I just seen someone like raise their hand. Someone here says, hi, be well. Will the session be available after? That's Dell. I have it recorded, and yes, it will be available again. Absolutely. Okay.
Now, Tanya, if you want to stop the recording just for the questions, that
Mhm.
way your recording won't be that long. You can actually pause your recording. So
The
that way
recording
the
has stopped.
I
Yes.
just did it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna need to take you, Stacy, everywhere I go until I learn this system here. You know, Stacy has been phenomenal. This tells you about the power of virtual reality, you know, or this whole thing here. And if we had not, again, let's talk about change. If we had not ensured this crisis that we're living in, who would have known that we'll all be connected here? The young woman here, Stacy, I just met her through another one of my check-in and chats. I do a check-in and chat every morning at 11 a.m. on Zoom. I do it. And I met Stacy, and Stacy taught me how to do the presentation on Zoom. I had no idea of how to do it. How about that? So thank you again so much. Okay.
Look, teamwork together, everyone achieves more.
You know, someone has a question here that said, if change is the only constant, what importance is history? We create history through change. That's how history is created. If we didn't learn certain things in history, then the things we have, we wouldn't have. You know, even say with this virus, if some of this kind of viruses or things hadn't happened before, they would not have a hold on needing to develop tests and vaccines and all of that. So it's change is what makes history.
Thank you for that. This is Dale, and I'm the one that wrote that question. And thank you so much for this presentation. It's so full.
Oh, I'm so happy you enjoyed it. And anyone on here, I am available for individual.
I wanted to just elaborate on my question. So I understand what you're saying about history. One of the things that perplexes me and angers me about where we are as people and Americans and humans with this COVID is that a few years ago, and I say few laughingly, when HIV/AIDS came here, that pandemic was so very similar to this. It was similar in terms of the demographics and the socioeconomic relevance of it, those persons that were hit the hardest. But on and on, there were and are so many stark similarities.
Yes.
So I'm part of me is wondering if indeed change is the only constant, then what, and I'm angry when I say this, so please don't think I'm not understanding the insanity of my question. Well, where the heck does morality and humanity come in? The same darn things that were being done to people of color then with the HIV and AIDS are being done now. And what gosh darn change has there been? So anyway, I'll stop ranting. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm gonna respond to that by saying, first thing I want to say, and don't y'all beat me up, nothing is being done to us. We do these things to ourselves. From being uninformed or less informed or reactive instead of proactive. You know, I got calls that came through that said, oh, Black folks don't get COVID-19. And I was just really bewildered by that. I'm like, where did you get that from? You know, we're not living on another planet or anything. So again, I say to folks, check your resources. Where are you getting that information from? Who are these people? Educate yourself. And when it comes to morality and will and choice, that has nothing to do with change. Those are personal concepts. Change is what happens. That question that I gave us back in the very beginning, where will you be when yesterday meets tomorrow? The answer to that, who came up with an answer for that? Anybody want to tell me what their answer is? What will you be doing when yesterday meets tomorrow? Anybody got an answer?
Sleep.
Probably. No. But when yesterday meets tomorrow, what will you be doing? You will be changing. When yesterday meets tomorrow is right now. That's what's in between. Yesterday and tomorrow is right now. And so what will you be doing? You will be changing. How you do it is based on if you embrace it negatively or positively. If you embrace it negatively, you're waiting for something to happen to you. If you embrace it positively, you're examining what is it you can do for yourself to make that adjustment. Because yesterday is going to meet tomorrow, no matter if you sleep, Beverly, no matter if we're on here talking or what is going to happen. Y'all get what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so it's the same way with we are highly impacted by this because we do, as people overall, have a lack of resources. So I get what you're saying. I mean, I have health insurance, but I don't have as great a health insurance as somebody else, you know? So yeah, we have a lack in resources, but also we get stuck in the blame game. We get stuck in misinformation. We, get stuck in the woes me's as people. Even when you reach out for help, I'm so happy when I see people of color reach out and come to these type of forums for information because historically, we just don't do that. There's something wrong with us doing that, so we don't do it. And when I decided to become, I'm a therapist, okay? I'm a psychotherapist. I'm a life coach. I'm an ordained minister. I'm a lot of things because I'm real curious about life and living and how I can help people on various platforms. But I got a lot of pushback from my own community. Why would you do that? You're a traitor if you do that. Why would you do this? Why would you do this? So what I'm saying, open yourself up and examine where are you on the spectrum? And how does the change affect you morally or any other way? Does that lend any explanation?
I certainly think that your view that you just gave, it directs itself to many of the things that I spoke to. Mm-hmm. And as I said in the beginning, I am an extremely biased person. I was there practicing medicine when the first wave came through with HIV/AIDS. And I thought that, well, this is over now. It was a heinous incident, and now it's over, and I will never, ever see this again. Humanity will never lower itself to what it is at now, ever again. And I'm seeing it now again, and I am, to put it lightly, I'm displeased.
Well, I wanted to say something even to that. This is a concern for me personally. I don't know about you all. I am concerned that this event we're experiencing, the COVID-19, is going to be placed in a category just like HIV. HIV is not gone. It is alive and popping. Let me just tell you. The numbers of HIV is rising. But it's not a news story anymore, so it's not being sensationalized as old. People are not, they're still stigmatizing folks when they find out. Some of them, not everybody, just globally like it was. But what happened, there was a treatment that happened that says you can live with HIV, and when we started educating folks, because I was on the front line of that, I was a nurse at the time, and I quit my regular nursing job and I went into HIV research. And I traveled over in Europe and everything doing research to see why were their numbers lower there than the numbers here in the US. But just like anything else, it's sensationalized through the media. And then once you realize you're not going to die from it, see, people are afraid of dying. People are just afraid to die. If they was to say right now you can go get COVID and you won't die, everybody would take off those masks and they'd be running up and down the street naked. Okay? People are just afraid to die. HIV is alive. There is no cure for HIV, but you can live with HIV. They have normalized it just like they have diabetes and high blood pressure and everything else. They have put it in a normal disease category. Disease is dis-ease. You won't be comfortable if you get it because now you got to take these treatments in order to live with it. So now HIV has become a disease, dis-ease, and you can still pass it. However, they have a treatment that if you take this medicine, you can't give it to people. They also got medicine if you go out and oops, I didn't do it. They have a prophylactic you can take that's supposed to be able to knock it out before it sets itself into your system. You got children, people that are positive with HIV now, women having babies and the babies are born negative. So they have normalized the disease, but it is still there. The highest incidence of HIV is in the heterosexual African American women community in childbearing ages. That's the highest incident. It's not the gay community, is not the white community. It's in the African American heterosexual community where the highest incidents are. The newest cases of HIV is among African American youth. And I don't want to give this public health announcement or anything, but I'm just saying people are not educated, or now they know that they are not going to die. They don't care. They're not concerned. And I'm afraid that that's what's going to happen with this thing too. It's just like the flu, just like the Spanish flu 100 years ago really affected everyone. If you Google some of that, you've seen people walk around with masks on back then. They had some real stylish hats and masks that went together. But once they got a vaccine for it, people stopped fearing it as bad. And the same thing is going to happen. So will it go away? I don't know. And then you have your folks that they're just thinking about self. They don't care about other people. They're just waiting to just go outside and do whatever. And you got some folks that are still outside doing whatever. So that's where the morals and the values come in, and, moving outside of yourself. And again, educate, know where you get your information from.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
My question is...
can you say your name? I was trying to pronounce it.
My name is Lazara.
Lazara. Okay, thank you.
Lazara.
Mm-hmm.
When you accept something that you did not want to happen, how long does it take for you to feel peace with that decision or with that acceptance? Does acceptance come?
Remember, I said when you accept something doesn't mean you have to like it.
Mm-hmm.
Acceptance creates a way that you can embrace that thing and live with it. Acceptance just means you're not resisting it anymore. But it means that you are participating in how whatever that thing was affects your life. So no, it doesn't go away. But you can turn whatever that event is into a life lesson. You can take that information and see what can you do with it to benefit you for the rest of your life. And when I say that, no, you don't take something that may be negative and say, like we do a line, oh, I'm not going to do that thing again. Oh, Lord. Oh, every time I see somebody with a smile, I'm going to run, because then that starts to limit you. You start looking at the smile and understanding that particular smile and understanding that information that comes with that. And that's acceptance. Acceptance is just understanding a situation and how that situation is going to affect you. You don't have to like it. Did that answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Any more questions? Now, I know I did a good job, but I think you all might have some questions for me.
I have a question.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
My name's Precious. You had mentioned earlier that you have like a daily check-in. How do you sign up for that?
It's a daily check-in and chat. Are you on Instagram at all?
Yeah.
If you go to Instagram, and you'll find me on Instagram, Dr. Tanya Gilbert, and up in my bio on Instagram is a link. All you do is click on that link, and it will take you into it, because it's on Zoom. So if you're on Zoom, it happens every day, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. on Zoom.
Okay.
And if you would like, anyone that's on here, you can contact me privately through the email. My email, if you got something to write with, my email address is Dr. Tanya Gilbert, Tanya Gilbert, Gilbert, at gmail.com. Dr. Gilbert at gmail.com. So if you want the link to anything, you can just email me and I'll send you whatever information. And you can also go to my website. If you go to my website, it's a calendar of my events. And so if you go on the calendar, you click on the day, and it will take you right into the registration for any of my events on my calendar. My website is drtanyagilbert.com. It's doctor without the dot. It's drtanyagilbert.com. And everything I have is listed there.
Thank you so much. This was very beneficial for me. I had a rough week.
Oh, I'm
when
happy.
I saw this up, I was like, I'm definitely signing up for that.
Okay. And please look, you guys, I'm having a Friday night dance party. I think it's on May 1st. It's a Friday night dance party. It's gonna be $10 a person. I'm gonna have a phenomenal professional choreographer that's gonna do it. And it's not about learning to dance professionally. It's just about us doing something to get out of ourselves and have fun and laugh at yourself. Okay. And so if you would like, please participate in that, because you got to learn to enjoy yourselves too. That's part of making change and adjustment. Stop taking this thing so seriously. And that doesn't mean ignore it. It just means embrace it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Focus on gratitude.
Yes, absolutely. So at this point, if there's no other questions or anything, I'm going to end our session. If anyone, again, go ahead.
I think there's some in the chat.
Oh, some in the chat. Okay. Oh, yeah, I see some messages here. Okay. This is wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you all. Somebody here said, if you do not have any tangible support from loved ones, how can you get through this COVID isolation? Plus, family, loved ones isolated. The feeling is extremely lonely. And my response to that would be, through what we're doing now, there's a lot of virtual communities. Again, I always say, if you take what you have and internally, your internal resources, look in there and find your resources, find your strengths, and whatever the thing is that you need or you're looking for, if you can't find it outside of yourself, then create it. Then create it. I mean, I started doing the daily chat. I had no idea if anyone was going to participate in it, but it's a virtual platform and you can get it free. You don't even have to pay for it. You know, I'm paying for it now because it did pick up where I got enough people and I wanted to stay in it more than, the 40 minutes that it allowed you for the free version. But anything that you don't have, just know you can create it. That's how most things that we have in this world came out of necessity. Again, stop waiting on somebody else to do it and just do it. So if you're feeling isolated, if your family are feeling isolated, maybe you can find a way to connect, which will help somebody else learn how to connect, something different, Anybody else have any suggestions?
I would like to piggyback off of that. I would say that I've literally been feeling so full from these virtual events. It has kept my mind occupied. It has brought so many powerful people, such as yourself, Dr. Tanya, into my life that had it not been for this virtual network platform, who's to say how would I have been able to meet you? I'm in Philadelphia, you're in California. And, and some of you are probably in other states, but this platform, let me tell you, the day that I met Dr. Tanya, that same day, I hung out with some housewives in Pompano Beach, Florida during the afternoon. Earlier that day, I meditated with some ladies that were, they was showing you how to release and meditate and, release stress during this time. And I joined that virtual platform. And then later on at night, I actually met with some ladies in Canada and Barbados on virtual. And then just the other night, I was hanging out with ladies in Chicago. So it's kind of like, if you don't have that support system, you don't have those friends, you can always ask all your friends to, I don't know if anybody drink or anything, but if you are someone that like a glass of wine, have all your friends join you with a glass of wine online. Look at mine, right? A glass of wine online, and let's all toast to each other. Let's all toast that we are on this side of the ground. We are on this side of the ground. So it's a lot of people that's not making it. Don't, try to decrease your time on Facebook because that will create anxiety. I needed this word today, Dr. Tanya, because I myself, although I'm strong in a lot of areas, I became weak at times because of the anxiety of seeing things on Facebook, videos being, thrown in my messenger. Things that are being text messaged me, trying to keep me informed on this sick disease that I don't want to be informed of. Send me something positive, send me something motivating, send me something encouraging, call me. So if you're going to have to avoid all distractions and create your own little Zoom platform and hang out with your friends and family or strangers on Zoom like this.
And again, I really want folks to know, if you are sitting and waiting for things to go back to normal, this is normal. It's going to be a part of the new normal. Now, I'm not going to say we won't get to go outside or do some of the things that we've been accustomed to, but I believe within everything, we have to hit the restart button. This is an opportunity for us to look at where we are. It's an opportunity for us to look at what we have instead of our anxiety is coming from, I'm going to just back up. Our anxiety is coming from not coping with change. Our anxiety is coming from resistance. You remember that stage? See, we all past denial because we know it's happened. We're living it. So we're past denial. But a lot of us are still in that stage of resistance to it. You know, in resistance, you're just sitting there just waiting and waiting and waiting for something to happen different. This is different. Every day you wake up and you look at what's on the media, they give you a different perspective on this COVID-19. I engage everybody to look at what's happening and stop focusing on what you don't have and focus on what you do have and focus on how can you use what you got. That includes your family. For the person that said to me that they're feeling lonely and isolated and their family are too, I don't know if you live in a house together or not, but that goes to when I say people can be home together but still be home alone. You know, find some activities to do together. Find some things that you appreciate about each other. You know, I say to my parents that have children, kids are usually gone to school somewhere between 4 and 6 hours a day. I don't know for sure how long, but you just got a few extra hours with your children. Now you get to see what the teachers have been going through. So use this time to appreciate those teachers. Use this time to understand more about what these teachers may be going through with your children. Use this time to teach your kids something different. I'm not saying you're bad parents, but teach your kids something different, you know? And they'll learn how to respond to difference based on how you respond to it. If you don't have family, this is the time to create family, create community. Get on some of these forums that you don't know anybody and just go for it. Just what we're doing here. Most of us don't know each other, but we were willing, remember in my presentation, the willingness, we were willing to take a risk and see who else is out there, see what else is out there. If you're not willing to move beyond yourself, then you're going to be stuck in where you are. And when this thing is over, you're going to be really stuck because you're going to get left behind because things will have changed. And this is going to be part of it. Someone asked, may they share information on their senior chair exercise sessions? Absolutely. Are you still here? I guess that person left. Someone on the call had a senior chair exercise session.
I'm right here. I'm going to just try to upload this right now, Doctor. Thank you.
Okay. And someone else here, someone else was asking me if I would send out an email blast to everyone on my events. Absolutely, I will. And again, feel free to contact me. Anybody contact me. If you Google Dr. Tanya Gilbert, I pretty much pop up. I didn't know there was so many Dr. Tanya Gilberts, but my picture is pretty much on everything. You can also call me at 1-844 Dr. Tanya. 1-844-DRTANYA. You can call me on that number. Anybody can call me on that number. For anyone that's interested in coaching, I'm available, and I do have rates that fit most folks' budget. If anyone looking for therapy, if you live in the state of California, I do take Medi-Cal and Medicaid. I don't take most traditional insurances. I chose to work with folks that was on the lower socioeconomic spectrum to provide services that's usually not affordable to those people. And so I do take Medi-Cal and I do take Medicaid. That's LA Care, Medi-Cal Health Net. And this is not a commercial to get clients. I'm just saying if you know someone or if you need it, I am available. Did you get that loaded up, Dale?
I certainly hope so. My end says that it went out to everybody, but
okay.
I don't know. Anybody see a flyer about chair exercises for seniors?
Anybody see a flyer loaded up for that? Why don't you just give us the information? If you don't have it, just share the information.
Sure.
And the other thing you can do, Dale, you can send it to me and I can send it out to other people.
Oh, that's wonderful, wonderful. It was created primarily for seniors that are self-isolating, and a lot of them aren't really technologically savvy. So I don't only do it on Zoom or on WhatsApp, but I've also done it just regular old school phone to old school phone. I had a lady last week, couldn't even find where the speaker button was on her phone. So we just did it old school. These are all free of charge to seniors. And yeah, I'll send that out to you. Dale Rasco.
Okay, I'll make sure everyone get it. Anyone else have anything they'd like to share before we close out today?
Dr.
Go ahead, sorry.
Okay, Beverly, go ahead.
Yes, on the chat group, Zoom chat group, the thing that Dale sent has come out. It's a little box on it that you can download and see her chair exercise.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
In chat group, okay.
Okay, did someone else want to say something?
Yes, Dr. Gilbert, I'm Allison. Earlier you spoke to me. I didn't want to be rude.
Okay.
I'm having technical difficulties as well, but I just want to say I truly, really appreciate you taking the time to do this, especially for women of color. I respect it, and I want to give you your flowers while I could. So thank you
so much. I truly appreciate it. And make sure you continue to look up different events I do and participate. You know, and I'm always doing something to enhance where we are. Okay. Anyone else wanted to share before we close?
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Okay. Hold on, Mr. Carter. Can you hold on 1 minute? And Christopher, go ahead.
Yes. I saw that you had touched on my question earlier, and I was having technical difficulties too, so I missed a lot of it. But I was the one that posted about just feeling lonely and stuff like that. Just to make a long story short, I went through a divorce last year, and a lot of my family members and stuff like that, they kind of turned on me and stuff. So it's just, I've been going through a lot of loneliness and separation, and now this COVID situation, luckily I do have my job or whatever, but I have to work from home. I'm still super isolated. So it's just been really depressing. Been a lot of dark thoughts, to be honest with you. That's why.
Well, if you would like, Christopher, again, like I said, there's things that you can do virtually, because that's what we all kind of stuck with, you know, reaching out to these different virtual communities. Thank you so much for reaching out to me and coming here to this community. And if you like to connect and talk about it more, did you write my phone number down?
I did.
Okay. I want you to call me and let's talk privately about your situation. And there might be something I can do to help.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Carter, you were saying something?
Oh, yeah. So just wanted to say thank you for the presentation. It was very informative and helped me a lot. You know, just like with anybody, you know, COVID-19 is putting people financially, just in so many different ways. So, you know, I had to think about my situation because I was like, okay, right now financially I'm not doing as well, but I'm trying to just hold up as much as possible. And when you talked about, you know, being reactive versus proactive, I thought about the decision that I made actually just last night, where I in my last semester, and you know, this class is really challenging, and I noticed that because I'm home, you know, I got so many other worries, so many other things that I could be doing, and I'm not putting the focus into the class. You know, so I made a decision because I'm like, you know, I can't continue with this class right now. Maybe it's better off to having the class in person. So I had to make a proactive decision and say, you know, let's put this class on hold for now. I'll go back next semester. And in the meantime, I can do something else that will not only boost boost my mind to be able to free myself from just being in the house all day, I can start to work out and I can exercise and start to lose more weight. And then, I'm setting myself up for the future, because if I wanted to do something that involves me being more physically active, now I can do that. So,
well, let me chime in a bit there for you, Mr. Carter. But remember what I also said when I gave the bonus pointers, is that having some structure in your day, because this here thing threw us all off. And if you create structure, like I say, you don't have to stick to it, but you don't want to, at this time, and I want to encourage all of you all, at this time, this is not the time to make any major decisions in your life that's going to be lasting. Do not make any major decisions to start or stop anything major until we come out of this limbo. But in the meantime, you can use this time to enhance where you are. And so what I'm saying with that, to be understood with that, when I said make a workspace, okay, at home, part of your structure, I get the distractions, but if you make a workspace, say you make a classroom for yourself to do your study in, what you do in that structure, in that schedule that you make, you say from 1 to 3, I'll be studying. And you go to that corner of the table, that chair or the floor or wherever, your car, wherever you have identified as that place, you go to that place. And that's where you put your mindset. And that's why it's about creating the thing that you need, so you can tell whatever we believe, we think, that's what we do. So if you create that space and then you go over there to study, and you study in the time that you've given, then you will focus on studying and not be so distracted. Now, I know that you say you made those changes already. That's fine. But I just want to encourage everyone, don't make any major decisions about your life right now, because we don't know how this thing is going to come out. Again, I just opened an office, was seeing clients in there for 2 weeks before COVID started. My first reaction was, oh crap, now I got to go and take everything out of there, furnished everything. Then I sat with it for a second, said, no, you don't have to do that. Just figure out a way. You'll pay the rent on it. We'll figure it out. And I know that it's going to be okay. But I also know this is not the time for me to go pack up my toys and run. Okay? So don't make decisions without having enough information, and based on the current emotional state that you're in, that can be quite limiting. And if you want to talk about it more, you have my information, and we can talk about it again, privately. I want to thank everybody for being here today. If you don't have any other questions or statements for me, we're going to end our session. But keep looking out, because I have a lot more to come. Okay?
Thank you very, very much, Doctor.
You're quite welcome. You're quite welcome. Thank you, everybody. And have a good rest of your best life that you can have, okay?
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.